Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a joint committee session of our Education and Culture Committee and our Health and Human Services Committee. I am joined by majority of my colleagues in person. I know that Councilmember Jawando will be joining us virtually, and today we have two pieces of two items that we're going to be taking up. One is our update on the Children's Opportunity Alliance, the county's early care and education coordinating entity, followed by an update on our Blueprint for Maryland's Future. The Education and Culture Committee has been talking about a number of the different facets of the blueprint, and today we'll be discussing early childhood education and related early care and education initiative efforts. And so I want to start off with our Children's Opportunity Alliance, and I certainly want to give an opportunity for I said that twice, for my colleagues to certainly chime in, as they were key initiators of this entity, both Council President Al Bernos and Councilmember Navarro. But did just want to welcome first our participants today. We have with us Kevin Beverly, who's the board chair of our Children's Opportunity Alliance. We have Dara Treadvance, who's the Chief of Children, Youth, and Family Services, and one of our COA board members. I think, is Tiffany going to be joining us? Oh, Tiffany's virtual. There she is. Hey, Tiffany. All right, we have Tiffany Jones, who's the board secretary, joining us virtual, and I see Councilmember Jawando's joined us as well. And then Patricia Rupert is in the audience as well, so welcome. And we'll discuss and go through a number of the different things regarding the board and the assignments. But I just want to say that we have become a national model, and I think that that's key. It was very interesting. I actually was at the National Association of Counties. We had a pre-K to 5 conference specifically around early care and education. And this model was highlighted. It was right after we had passed the legislation in February. I think it was late February or March when I went. And it was very exciting because folks there looked at this as something in which we saw through COVID, as we had seen before COVID, the need for us to really focus on high quality and affordable early care and education for our community. We saw it as not only a necessity for us in the public sector, but also had great folks in the private sector who realized just how important this was. And it started pre-COVID. You know, I'm looking at Sharon and so many others who were instrumental with Montgomery moving forward and getting this initiative going. And I still remember being at Discovery with my colleagues and sitting there talking to then President of Montgomery College, Darian Pollard, about the need for us to do this and how we had to have a collaborative effort. That collaborative effort involved our education system from K through 12 to higher ed, as well as our community partners, nonprofit, as well as business leaders, and then government, all coming together to say that this needed to happen. And I really want to thank Dr. Raymond Kroll, our Director of Health and Human Services, who I know was challenged. Something that was in the bailiwick of the government at that point, but understood that embracing a model to where everybody felt empowered was incredibly important to help to move us forward. And I certainly want to thank you and Joanne Benson and so many others who worked together hand in hand to make this happen. It was not easy, but it was something that at the end of the day, I think, again, serves as a national model for us in terms of how really to move things forward and ensure that we're meeting the needs of our greater community when it comes to guaranteeing that individuals will always have access to affordable, high-quality early care and education. And so with that, I wanted to lay the base a little bit, but I'll turn to my colleagues, Council President Al Bernos, followed by Councilmember Navarro. Any of my other colleagues wish to have any opening comments, please do, and then we'll turn to Ms. Yao and staff to help walk us through, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Beverly as well. So, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief. We've got some pumpkins that still need to be carved before tonight, and a lot of work to get through in this session. I just wanted to express my deepest appreciation to all of our partners that have made today possible. And I know that the Department of Health and Human Services has been working diligently along with Mr. Beverly and all of the outstanding advocates that got us to this point. But as was noted throughout this process, it was the execution of this that was going to be just as important as the legislation that was enacted to get us to this point. And that's where we are today. This council stands ready, and I dare say this next council will stand ready to make sure that we continue the legacy of this really great work moving forward. And I really just want to publicly thank Council Members Rice and Navarro for their work to get us to this point, and Council Vice President Glass and I, if we are so fortunate as to come back after November 8th, commit to continuing this work as well. So with that, I yield back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And just it's so great to see all of you. I'm just really eager to hear the update. I think that, for sure this joint committee has done a lot of work, especially through the pandemic, which is incredible, to get us to this very important phase. And I think now it's about how it's going to be implemented and what are the major goals that we want to achieve. So other than that, just thanking everybody again for all your efforts in government moving forward, and HHS, the leadership, everyone who came together to get us to this particular point. Thank you.
And I did want to just, before I turn to a couple of my other colleagues, I said Joanne Benson. I have the senator on my mind for some reason. It's Joanne Barnes. I've self-corrected myself. I asked Councilmember Navarro. I was like, campaign season is upon us, and there's so many things going on, so many things happening. So I apologize, but Joanne knows who she is. She knows she knows I love her. Let me turn to the Council President, then Council Vice President, then Councilmember Jawando.
Just really quick, so of course Councilmember Jawando I hope comes back as well. It's just he's not directly sitting next to me, but the three of us were committed to continuing this work.
Council Vice President.
Ditto to everything. When we passed the bill earlier this year to create this structure, which involved lots of conversations, the goal was to get us to this point and to carry us even further ahead, and that's what this conversation is. So I'll stop talking so we can engage in that conversation.
Councilmember Jawando.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember when before I was elected, I reached out to Councilmember Navarro. I was like, I really want to work on early childhood education. She said, well, let me tell you what we've been doing, and she said we're going to need more help and support, and it's a passion of mine as well. I'm glad it's one of the many things I'm really proud of that we did kicked off that initiative with the county executive under her presidency. And we are absolutely going to get to the point where all of our 4-year-olds have access, and we're going to keep working backwards from there because we know the science is clear and the imperative for our children is clear. So look forward to continuing the work and the conversation today.
Well, thank you very much, Councilmember Jawando. Thank you to all of my colleagues. It really is one where, again, I did want to highlight one other thing that's incredibly important to me personally, which is early identification and really having a commitment to us making sure that we have high quality and affordable early care and education opportunities. Means early identification of some of the stumbling blocks, some of the challenges, some of the learning challenges that some of our students may have, and getting them the support that they need early is incredibly important, and it's going to be a game changer. There are so many in our community, especially in communities of color, who had been designated as, disruptions, challenges to the classroom because they had just not been diagnosed for some of the learning challenges that they had. And the reality is, by getting them the support that they need allows them to actually be more successful early on and contributes to, overarchingly, us having a better education system that works for everyone. I mean, that is the reality of the situation that we were in, coming as the son of a mother who was in special education for all of her life. I saw it with kids. She saw it with kids. It's something that is going to be an incredible game changer for those who have children with differing abilities and special needs. And so that alone, along from helping to eliminate some of the disparities and gaps that we see, especially when it comes to our communities of lower socioeconomic status and communities of color, is just incredible. I mean, and that's just beyond the simple fact of providing services to folks who need them, right, and who deserve them. So you've got this whole spectrum of folks who really are going to have their needs met by having a commitment like this that involves everyone on the same page. So I'm going to stop talking because I want to hear from Mr. Beverly and Dr. Kroll, and then we'll turn to you, Vivian, to kind of walk us through some of the salient points. So whoever would like to go first, Dr. Kroll.
Good morning, council members. Good to see you all again. Thank you all, Council President, Council Vice President, Council President-elect. Glad to see you all again, and glad to be back in person as usual. You know, you commented, Councilmember Rice, that this was a national model. There is nothing new about HHS or Montgomery County in particular creating national models that people want to pick up and emulate. So this one was a grand effort. I think the result of a lot of partnership, a lot of intense and thoughtful discussions, some agreements, some disagreements, some compromise, and finding a way forward, which I'm happy to say that we have done. Now working as a board member under the guidance of Dr. Beverly, who's working to get us off to a good start for the Alliance. I'm looking forward to this conversation and the work that we're going to do ahead. You noted that we were challenged. Growth is always challenging. It is always challenging. It is supposed to be challenging, but we are here. And my job and the job of the department is now to make sure that the needs of our youngest county residents are met in a way that allows them to reach their fullest potential. And I know that is the shared goal of everybody at this table and everybody that has been involved in this initiative up to this point. So I'm happy to be here, both through the Alliance and through the ECEI and this ongoing work. So looking forward to this conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so what I'll do is I'll actually, Mr. Beverly, if you can go ahead through your presentation, and then I'll come back and circle back to Vivian at some point. So let me turn it over to you as chair of our new Children's Opportunity Alliance that was selected as the county's designee of the Early Care and Education Coordinating Entity. I'll get it right at some point. Yes, it's a long title, but yes. So, Mr. Beverly, why don't you tell us a little bit about COA and how things are going up to this point?
Well, first, let me just say good afternoon, and just for the record, I am Kevin Beverly, so just so you know that. And I want to talk about this from a couple different perspectives. And first being, before we get started, I want to introduce you to our newly elected executive committee, which we elected at our last board meeting. To my far right, Ms. Pat Rupert, who is our vice chair. And I'm sure you probably know Pat. Pat comes to us not only as a parent, a grandparent, but a business leader in our community, and someone who has had an incredible commitment to equity throughout this pandemic. I mean, I've worked with Pat for some time. I've had the opportunity through the pandemic to really see an individual who not only put her talents, but her purse to work in order to help us build these equity hubs that we managed to do during the course of this pandemic. So thank you, Pat, for that. Also joining us online, Ms. Tiffany Jones, who is a parent and a child care provider, and has come to us also from the chair of the county's Community Action Board. And I think she resigned that, right, in order to be a part of this board. So people are giving up other things to work on this. Sitting next to me is Mr. William Hedgewood, who on paper is not yet, because we still have that to do, but will become our treasurer at our next board meeting once we have that election. He comes to us from Career Catchers and brings a rich experience from the nonprofit community. So one of the things I wanted to, and also with us, well, he's introduced Dira, who again is new to the county, and is the chief, as you said, of the Children, Youth, and Family Services. But she's brought a different perspective to this for me, because I think her perspective recognizes, I think, the value of the private side of this, probably, and has experiences with it that I hope will help us bridge some of the divides that I think trouble us now as we try to get this thing up and running. Not here is Ms. Kimberly Resnick, who is out on maternity leave, and she'll join us at the beginning of December. In her stead, Joan Schaefer, who many of you know, has on a pro bono basis been working with us, because as you know, we didn't really have a budget. So we were really just trying to move around using, I like to call it cash on hand, that we had to try and get some things done. And Joan has done a great job of, one, helping me keep track of both the entity, which is now applied for its 501c3, but also the Children's Opportunity Fund. And I just want to make sure that people really understand. Somehow we get these two things confused. One's an actual entity. One is a fund that just sits at the community foundation, houses money, we pay a fee for it, it serves as a fiscal agent. That's all it is. And as we think about what we do with that fund going forward and how we incorporate it and allow it to either continue under its current order or be aligned with the alliance in a way that allows us to take full advantage of the dollars that the Community Foundation over time have allowed us to get to. Because again, through this whole event of the pandemic and what we were trying to do, it was the Community Foundation who reached out to its membership and allowed us to get to dollars that were not available to government at the time. And I think that's an important distinction to make. Finally, I want to make sure that I recognize Sharon Freeman and Franca Brilliant from Montgomery Moving Forward, which is a part of Nonprofit Montgomery, for their steadfast support. Sharon's been around this work for a long time. She's educated me and a lot of us as we've gone through this process. One, understanding the role of government, and as I try to marry it with the work that we were doing at MMF. So I want to say that as well. The other thing I want to do is to commend the council on the great job of creating the initial legislation, because without it, we don't get the opportunity to be that model. I think when folks are looking at us, they're looking at that legislation and they're seeing how creative it is. It's seeing how you're trying to leverage both the private community as well as the public community to do this work. And in order to do that, I mean, one of the things that I've people talk about change, and we're in the middle of it, and how people fear change. I'm of the argument that people don't fear change. People fear loss. And what we have to recognize is during the course of this, we can't look at it as loss. There's a redistribution of resources that has to happen in order for us to make this model a real one. Because on paper, it looks really good. Implementing it is a challenge, because bureaucracies, you hit it with something like this, it maybe just shakes it off and continues to run as it's running. We have to be mindful of that as we get into this work. We have to be mindful of who we're truly here to serve. This is not about bureaucracies. It's not about this entity. It's about these children. It's about creating an environment that truly does, it truly does make sure that all eyes are on that prize. Because if in fact we are protecting our bureaucracies, then we've missed the game. This can't be about that. We also have to recognize that in that legislation it talks about our focus, and I know those words are intentional, 0 to 5. But we also know that from 0 to 5, we don't want to create a silo. Because again, we do exactly what bureaucracies do. We create silos and then we start building around that silo. And before you know it, the walls are up, and the things that we want to make sure happen is when those 0 to 5s get to K, that they are prepared. And in order for that to happen, the school system has to think about it differently. HHS has to think about it differently. The providers have to think about it differently. They've got to be connected to the school system in a very different way than they currently are. Their curriculums have to align in ways that foster what we're trying to do with this new model. That's very important to me, and it's important that we understand that going in. So I'll get off of that soapbox for a bit, and I think I did introduce William here, didn't I? Okay, just want to make sure I did. Okay. So let's talk about some of the accomplishments. As Ms. Yao included in her packet, we We did incorporate in the state of Maryland, and we have at the IRS our determination letter pending. We hope that that's going to be done by the end of the year. In the meantime, we are working with the Community Foundation to have it become our fiscal agent in the interim. Because until that time, someone who wants to give us money has a difficult time doing that and getting the benefit of having given it to a nonprofit. So we still need that support. We also created a 6-month work plan, which was a part of the, that we developed as a part of it and are now in the implementation process. And Ms. Rusnick, Ms. Treadvance, and Ms. Freeman, and Ms. Schaefer worked really hard to put that together, and it aligns, as we were working toward putting a budget together and trying to align it with the goals of the legislation. That was also a big part of that, and I thought they did a good job, and that's on page 20 of C20 of your packet. We did get the bylaws reviewed and ratified and voted on, so the board is now acting under that set of instructions. We've had 3 board meetings, and at each one, the focus has been around the budget. How much resource do we really need to run this? And we took 2 approaches. I'm sorry that we couldn't have that here for you even to review. I would have liked to have had that in front of you, but we're still working toward what to me is really a notional budget, looking at what the legislation calls for and what resources it would take to implement on an annual basis. Currently, we have also looking at the dollars that are currently available for execution. One, there's a 285 that came from HHS, 125 that we have from MCPS, and I think what happened last week, the 425 got released to make it available for us to be able to use as a part of our RISE as well. Also, just to say that the private side has been engaged in this. The Bender Foundation, as you know, put out a challenge that we met. We raised $50,000 to their $50,000 to come up with $100K, of which $50K went to nonprofit Montgomery to continue to support the work of the legislation because we were still in that process. So that $50,000 remaining now sits in the bank account of the entity. So that's available to us as well. I think I've covered. So the other 2 things that I think are notable is the data collection timeline that has been developed for the ECE landscape and analysis, and that the system building organization survey developed and distributed as a part of that landscape analysis. So you got that going on along with some other activities that are going along in the ECEI that I'm hoping can be more complementary. I worry that we may overlap, but we'll get to that and work through it. But those are 2 important documents. What I don't want to have happen is that we get satisfied by just saying we got it started. We have the opportunity to get a few things done that the entity itself does, and that landscape is a big part of it, which is why I think the resources that we've been trying to get our hands on are necessary. And a part of that landscape are things like what is the Collaboration Council doing? Because now stuff that was in their basket, they're not sure. The ECCC sits out there. It's doing something. We need to be clear about what that is in the future. We need to understand specifically. The ECEI, which has been underway, has gone through its first year and has a 4-year plan going forward. We need to make sure that that aligns. That landscape, that's a part of that landscape, and we need to make sure that it's all aligned. Because again, what we don't want to do is waste resources, but we also want to make sure we're true to what you were trying to accomplish with the legislation. Like I said earlier, and you said is as a fact, I think we have the opportunity to be that model. We've written it down, but we're going to have to make some changes in how we operate globally in order for it to truly take the shape that we think it can. And again, I think all parties here are committed to that. I think I might have said to Craig earlier, it's still a little crunchy. We're trying to get through stuff. It's a board that's trying to find its way because it's uneven. We have people who have lots of experience on boards. We have some who do not have any. They're feeling a little quiet. They don't speak up. We're trying to encourage that because we need their voices in the room. We're trying not to make sure that it's not dominated by folks like myself and others who've been deep in this. But I don't know all. I can't. I have lived by two first principles. One, I assume no malice. I assume that everybody who's working on this from their seat are seeing this elephant and they're trying to figure out what it is and how it moves. The other principle is get good people in charge of things and get the hell out of their way. In business, it proved to me to be the best decision I ever made. Everybody always wondered why I had so much time to dedicate to the things that were important to me, because I got out of the way. So I put that out there one of the last things I'll say, and what Pat is doing for us is to help us bring our board together. She's going to host a hayride out at the nurseries, and if board members, council members would like to come out and join us and meet the board, we're happy to host you as well. But we're hoping to maybe bring our board together in a little more informal setting and allow them to get to know each other informally. The work's important, but the relationships are more important. I'm not going to work at this through transactions. If it's not going to transform, it's not helpful. MOUs and all those documents that people checkbox don't do much for me. If the activities that we do don't transform, then we've not done our job. I'll stop there.
So, Mr. Beverly, let me just say that I leaned over to Councilmember Navarro and I said that, it's very clear that they picked the right person to be chair. And the reason why is because we don't oftentimes get where people come in front of us and say, things aren't all glossy and great. They normally, when they're presenting to us, talk about how great things are and how awesome everything is and don't actually acknowledge some of the challenges that are in front, because we want to know, because we want to help you to get through those challenges. And I wish that more people would be as upfront in terms of expressing where you are in the process, because it then enables us to work together to help you to get to that ultimate goal. And so it really is one, I wrote down your word of wisdom, which I promised to steal and will use from now on. People don't fear change, they fear loss, because it is so true. All of us up here were nodding because it's absolutely exactly right. And we've always said that people fear change, but it is true that if it's change and it's gain in terms of power or whatever the case may be, then people don't fear it. It's only when you think, it's not even necessarily the action of loss, it's the thought that you may lose something to where people all of a sudden are scared, right? And so from that standpoint, very good point, and something that, again, leads us to where we are, right? It helps to center us in terms of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And by you saying that, again, this is just about setting our kids up for success, right? It harkens me back to thinking about our education system as a whole and why it was created, right? Because that's important. It's important to know where you've been, to know where you're trying to get to. And keep in mind, when our founding fathers first created our education system was designed around religion. It was designed to keep people in the faith for what the founding fathers had started. And it wasn't until the 1840s where this whole concept of public education came about. And it was one in which, even then, the only people who were allowed to participate were of the hierarchy. And so we had a slated system at that point that still only allowed for a lot of folks to get into places, and other folks were left out of that. But it was still, even then, the education system was about skilled workers. We need to provide workers for our factories, workers for our fields, workers for whatever. Well, now we've changed. And so because we've changed now in the 2000s to where we understand that we're creating a whole different, we need to create a holistic person. It's no longer to where we're looking for a skilled workforce any longer. Skills are still important, don't get me wrong. but it's a holistic person that we're looking to shape, because our society, our world is looking for that. What we've seen from the mistakes, and they're currently lifting their ugly heads right now, and I apologize for my diatribe, but it's incredibly important and relevant right now, because this is what we're seeing. When we don't raise a whole child, when we don't make them socially conscious, when we don't give them all the information about their history and about the history of this country, we should not be surprised by what we see. It was us who failed our kids. So when we have children that are incarcerated, when we have children that are doing all kinds of things that we would deem aren't where we want to be as a society, part of that's on us. And so we have to do a better job. And so I think by, again, committing ourselves, as we did in Maryland with the blueprint, and here with ECEI, we've been working hard for a long time. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to disrespect the great work that HHS and Joanne and everybody has done with Children, Youth, and Family Services. That great work has been going on. The problem was we didn't have a model to be able to get it to as many people as we need to, and we didn't have commitment from everyone. But now we're there, because everyone recognizes and realizes how important this is to the success of this social experiment, which is the United States of America. Keep in mind, knowing your history is important to understanding where you're trying to go. So for me, I think, again, it truly is something that I think people need to get to. You know, Director Kroll, you're right. It's not anything that's new in terms of us understanding what it is we need to do. The fact of the matter is, doing it is what's new, right? And so that then can still serve to be that sort of impetus to others to make these kinds of things happen. And so I think that, again, with what you've indicated in terms of the support that you've gotten from some of the nonprofit, thank you, Bender, and other philanthropic organizations that are out there, the money that you currently have, it seems as though you're in a good place at this point. But I think it's important for my colleagues that are returning that there's the commitment that if you do need additional funds as it comes about, and I suggest that, you know, we circle back to this at some point to make sure that we understand exactly what those next steps of needs are, that we're going to be there. Because at the end of the day, we cannot let this start and then stop and stumble for something that is so important, right? So that's kind of where I am. But let me turn to Councilmember Navarro, because she had her hand up. And then, colleagues, if you just text me or just raise your hand.
Thank you. So before I ever, joined the Board of Education, I was a member of all these various task forces and work groups. And there was this one particular meeting of the Child Care Action Campaign in New York City. And by chance, I happened to share a cab with the director of the National AFD. And, she asked me what I was doing, and I said, I co-founded this nonprofit organization that promotes early care and education in the immigrant communities, and it also helps helps women become economically sufficient and all this type of stuff, and I'm feeling really good about that. And she turned to me and she said, you're exactly the problem, right? And I'm like, okay, that was very hostile. All right. And then she went on to describe that we've been working, so hard at the national level to get to a point where you have scalability and where you can really have an impact. But then the fact that there are all these efforts which are a very low scale, but really wonderful, creates this system of piecemeal approaches that then it becomes much more difficult to make the national case. And I really had to sit with that for a long time. And then it wasn't until I joined the Obama White House Commission of Educational Excellence for Hispanics that I decided to join the Early Ed Subcommittee. That after serving there and traveling around the country and doing all these summits and things like that, it also, that conversation really became front and center around the connections between, early care and education, scalability, economic sufficiency, economic development, competitiveness of the United States, looking at the demographic, projections, who the young people are, mostly black and brown, as we see that I believe the only continent that has a positive birth rate going forward is Africa. And so our birth rate is declining, and there are concerns regarding what's going to happen with our workforce. But then when you add to that the layer that our black and brown children are not doing very well at all in our school systems, and they happen to be the vast majority of the youth that is coming up, then, it's just a mathematical equation, right? Like, we are kind of in trouble. So this notion of scalability is so important. And that stayed with me for a while, which is why in 2019 I thought it was so important to come together to put forth this action plan that has served as the platform, and then adding that to the work of Worksession Montgomery. I think we are now in a really important moment, and so I am hopeful that a lot of the bureaucratic things that you were talking about, that they get worked out. Because during the pandemic, we saw it was possible, right? When we came together to do Por Nuestra Salud y Bienestar and the African American Health Program, it was really, truly a prime example of how government can work with the community to achieve something extraordinary. But we do have to think differently. We have to think laterally. And I think this is a really wonderful point in time. I am leaving this council feeling pretty good about where we are in this space. And I think it will be super important, obviously, for the next council, along with the administration, to take the time to really, have these kinds of exchanges. Because a lot of time we do get real focused on the specifics, okay, so this is the funding and it should go through this and and we lose sight of what is it that we're working towards. Because Montgomery County, in terms of the school system in particular, all we have to do is look at the demographics. And we would be foolish not to understand that a school system that is 72% kids of color, and that the pandemic has exacerbated, the issues around the gap, where are we going to be then, right? So this work is ever so important. And Mr. Beverly, I really appreciate when you said something about the board, some people are real quiet, et cetera, because it's going to be really critical to ensure that the voices of those communities that make up the majority of the school system's population, that their voices are front and center, because it is intimidating, sometimes to join a particular board or something when you're not used to a lot of this kind of jargon. But if we don't get those voices in there, then we are not going to achieve what we're trying to achieve in a direct way, right? So I find this to be a really awesome experiment, if you will. The Children Opportunity Fund was meant to be sort of a small experiment. Couple that with the ECE work of the action plan and all of that, and kudos to the administration for having, put the money forward. That's been important, right? But now this piece, it's, I think, going to be one of the, toughest part. But I'm really, like I said, I leave knowing that all of the players, all the characters are in place to move this forward to a significant, space. And one day I can find that one lady and let her know that, we did things a little bit different here in the county. And then we did scale it up, and we are a model. So there you go. But just, I just want to say thank you again, because this is a lot of work, but I think it's the most important work. The last thing I will say is that we must always tie it back to also fiscal responsibility. As the chair of the Fiscal Policy Committee here on the council for all these years, because the money that we are investing in those first 5 years will be money that I know we will save later on in the school system's budget, when we don't have to remediate all these children and we don't have to lose their ability to contribute. So we gotta, like I said, we just gotta think differently about all of this. So it is a fiscal responsibility action to invest and this effort. So it's good news all around. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, thank you. No, yeah. Look, you make me want to preach all day, and I don't want to do that. I know Councilmember Albornoz has little kids. Mine are all old, so they don't trick or treat anymore. But I did just want to highlight one thing that you said that I think is incredibly important for us moving forward, and that is to understand that we do need to track those numbers. We do need to track that data to show that our investment on the front end does reap on the back end. We know that it will. We know that anecdotally. We've heard the stories. We've seen it. When you see folks in any of our urban centers throughout this country, right, what do they say? They say, oh, well, charter schools are the panacea. All charter schools are an investment of more money than you typically see at the public school level for those individuals. Well, that can be replicated anywhere. It's not a charter school model. It just means the support, the mentorship, all the tutoring, all the things that go into that model need to be there for our kids who especially need the assistance, and they'll succeed. Much to what Director Grohl was saying. This isn't rocket science in terms of what it is that we need to do. That's true. We just have to commit to doing it. And that's where the administration comes in also, in terms of, as Councilmember Navarro said, with the initial funding that needs to be there to make sure that we're helping to support and get this entity started. I did want to turn to Ms. Treadvance as well if you had anything, but I wanted to start with Ms. Yao. Ms. Yao, thank you for laying out for us some of the salient points that we need. I think that, again, in terms of our initial conversations around funding, it seems as though from even the chair's perspective, we're in a good place right now. I do have to just, again, reiterate, because I'm stepping away to my colleagues that will return, that we do need to return to this at some point. So just as you had highlighted, and I agree in the packet, with sometime February, March, to have at that point conversation. It'll be during the midst of budget, so it'll be perfect opportunity for us if we do need to have some additional funds to be able to help support the effort. But I think we find ourselves in a good place. So let me turn to you, Ms. Yao.
I think you've pretty much summarized what I was going to say. There's some key activities that the board is going to be engaging in, finding an executive director and other key staff, developing their strategic plan, work plan, discussing the work plan, as well as, board training and those kinds of onboarding exercises. Right now, it appears that the funding that the council has appropriated in DHHS and also the Children's Opportunity Fund, NDA, can support those initial efforts. But what we don't know at this point is, what staff and when will they come on, those kinds of things that the board will be working with the executive director on. And so I think when we know more, the goal is to come back to council to, again, if there is a gap in funding, then the council can review that when more is known.
Excellent. Council Vice President Glass.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really good conversation, good update, and feeling good about where we are. And as Mr. Beverly stated at the beginning of your remarks, you're constituting the board, and congratulations to all the board members as well. And as Ms. Yao just said, also one of the items that's on your plate is an executive director, which is probably the most important, or at least one of the most important, aside from finding money, finding someone who will be able to manage that money in an operational capacity. And so while I don't necessarily want you to speak for your board, and you're sitting with two other board members now, can you share, can you share with us qualities or at least a mission that you would like that executive director to undertake, knowing that it's all kind of open in front of you, and you know the direction in which you need to go, but the path has not yet necessarily been charted?
Thank you for the question. We've, as a board, I'd be speaking for myself because we really haven't gotten to that deep discussion around this. We've got a draft of a position description, but it's not been vetted with the whole board. But we're looking for someone who demonstrates those leadership qualities that we see, who recognizes both the inputs from external and internal, when I think about how government works, and how the private sector interacts with it doing that work, has an appreciation for that, has experience with the philanthropic communities, and is willing to go out and hunt for those dollars to make the case of why these dollars are going to be important to the future success of both the private and our public sectors. So we're looking for someone, compassion's important, but someone who really recognizes the importance of data, and that data that needs to go across multiple platforms. Because we have here, we've got MCPS and a set of rules. We've got our executive group and a set of rules. We've got a private sector and their sets of rules. We need to transcend all of that, and someone that's able to navigate that's going to be very important.
Thank you. And I know Ms. Rupert or Ms. Jones, who's joining us, do you have any other thoughts you want to share? You're here, so I want to give you an opportunity to speak if you'd like. Ms. Jones? I don't mean to put either of you on the spot, just want to provide an opportunity.
I just want to thank the council for believing that early care and education is really important, and I'm thankful to be a part of such a dynamic set of board members who is always thinking about how we can move early care and education along. I think what is really important to me is to see the whole picture and to make a system that can create a whole child, not somebody who's only academically sound, but someone who's socially emotionally sound. But I'm speaking as the board member for all the other family child care providers in our county who oftentimes feel left out and don't feel like their voices are heard. And we are an essential part of the early care and education system. So I think it's just really important to make sure that in whatever plan we are, moving forward with, that we really are a significant part of the system.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Ms. Rupert? You're good. Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you to the three of you for stepping up, and look forward to the updates as you as a board formulate them. Thank you.
And again, thank you all for the time today. Leadership matters, and you guys have done a great job of demonstrating that leadership through this process, so I appreciate that. So thank you again.
Excellent. Well, I think we're in a very good place. Again, we've made a number of remarks about how we will come back, but certainly want to continue to support the efforts of the COA and our new ECEI framework, which then leads us into our following conversation, which is perfect because, again, this is not something that's just unique now to Montgomery County. This is something that across the state we've committed to in terms of being a priority. While the model that we've now created with this COA may be a little bit different from how others across the state may approach early care and education, the reality is that they are all now going to be held to a standard. When you look at the governance and accountability that's a part of the blueprint that really asks to see those numbers, that data in terms of success and the heavy investment that the state will be putting forth. But it's also something where I think that we can't forget what Councilmember Navarro mentioned. And sure, we'll have midterms and there'll be elections and there may be some movement that happens on a national level. But the reality is that just as we see here in this community, nobody has D's or R's behind their names when it comes to this ECEI initiative. This is something that we know is deeply rooted in the success of our community, our state, and our nation. And so from that standpoint, an investment in education is not something that is partisan. It is something that is truly supporting our country. And so from that standpoint, it is our hope that we will continue to see federal support for initiatives like this, as we saw from the Biden-Harris administration and some of the investments that they made during COVID when it came to helping to support some of our early care and education initiative efforts, that we continue to see that support regardless of who's in office, because it helps tremendously across the board for us as a whole. If you care about reducing crime, invest in education. If you care about eliminating healthcare disparities and driving down the cost of healthcare, invest in education, right? If you care about workforce and you care about jobs, invest in education. No D's or R's, just invest. With that, I thank you. I appreciate all of your time today, and we'll move on to our next panel. So, our next, thank you. Our next item is the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, Early Childhood Education and Related Early Care and Education Initiative efforts. So we're going to pivot a bit. I've got Ms. Backey, the Blueprint for Maryland's Future Coordinator, Director Owens, Director of the Division of Early Childhood and Title I Programs and Services with Montgomery County Public Schools, Director Kropp, Division of Pre-Kindergarten Special Programs and Related Services with MCPS, Bibi Otero, Special Assistant to the Office of the County Executive, Dr. Kroll, Director of our Department of Health and Human Services, Ms. Treadvance, Chief of our Children, Youth, and Family Services with the HHS. So if you could all join us. I understand that Dr. Murphy could not be with us today, and I know that we have Damon Monteleone standing in his stead, so we appreciate you being here as well. Just a bit of background, and again, I'm not going to, I already did my diatribe before, but I served on the Blueprint, the Kerwin Commission at the time, and actually chaired this particular entity within the Kerwin Commission. And so this is near and dear to my heart. All of the recommendations I firmly believe to my core in terms of what it is that we need to do to provide a best performing system that mimics some of the best performing systems that are in the world. It is incredibly important for us to make sure that all of the pieces of the blueprint come together to enable these things that we want to have accomplished to happen. And so with that, I'm going to turn it to, I guess, Ms. Yao to kind of give some background, and then we'll go ahead into an update from both DHHS and MCPS. So with that, Ms. Yao.
So the Education Committee has been going through the various areas of the blueprint for updates. And this is an opportunity for both the Joint Committee to hear about the early care and, early childhood education portion of the blueprint. So we have two presentations that are going to be provided to the Joint Committee. One from Janine Backey, who is the coordinator for blueprint activities in the county. And then we're also going to hear from executive staff. I believe Bibi Otero is going to be providing a short update on the Early Care and Education Initiative. Again, the early care and education in the county is a whole comprehensive effort from 0 to 5, and the efforts in early childhood education on the blueprint is one kind of subset of those efforts. So the impact of the ECEI has significant ramifications on what we're doing with the blueprint. So we're going to hear from the executive on other efforts that relate to the blueprint.
Ms. Backey, then I guess the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today. Before we begin with the PowerPoint, we'll have some opening remarks from Mr. Monteleone, the Associate Superintendent for Student Wellbeing.
Greetings, council members. It's an honor to be here once again before you and speak to some of the work before I pass it off to our colleagues. I'm Damon Monteleone, Associate Superintendent in the Office of School Support and Wellbeing. And again, it's a pleasure to be here. I want to share with the council that our Board of Education and Superintendent McKnight have an abiding interest in supporting our county's young children and ensuring access to a supportive pathway of services that will help them grow and develop academically as well as socially and physically. We know there are many research-based benefits of pre-K and other early learning programs. Studies such as the Perry Preschool Project and the Chicago Parent-Child Study identify long-lasting benefits of high-quality preschool, especially for children who are likely impacted by poverty, mobility, disabilities, and/or homelessness. And we also know, as has been stated, right, when children are exposed to high-quality preschool experiences, they are less likely to be identified as in need of special education services. They are less likely to be involved with the juvenile justice system. We know that they are better readers, writers, speakers, and thinkers, and that their achievement rates are higher in reading and math in the early grades, and this continues throughout elementary and secondary school, and that the graduation percentages at the high school level and in the post-secondary level are also higher. We also know that learning begins at birth, right? And our first teachers are the family and those around us in our homes. But we also know that preschool lays the strongest foundation for success in kindergarten, the primary grades, and beyond. So in MCPS, we want to ensure that no matter where a child comes from, that they will find success once they hit kindergarten, and so that all students, regardless of their socioeconomic standing, are kindergarten ready and ready to learn as they go through our K through 12 experience. MCPS works to maximize learning, to increase our accountability in early grades, to reinforce the pre-K years. We want you to know that we are committed to ensuring that all children are on this trajectory for success, and that we are adapting to the needs of our community as our community demographics continue to evolve and ensuring success for all. And we are happy, and I see some of my colleagues here at the end of the table that I work with often, to continue to work with Department of Health and Human Services, our county nonprofits, our county early care entities, and especially our community-based child care partners to ensure increased access to high-quality pre-K programs. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to also acknowledge from our team today, Dr. Peggy Pugh, our Chief Academic Officer, Verna Washington, who's the Early Childhood Supervisor in MCPS, Jessica Blasek, who's also an Early Childhood Coordinator, and Eric Gersey, who's an Assistant to the Chief of Staff. Thank you. Today we'll talk about the Early Childhood Education and Expansion portion of the blueprint. As you know, there are 5 areas, 5 pillars of the blueprint. Today we're talking about high-quality early childhood education and expansion. It also includes high-quality and diverse teacher leaders, college and career readiness, including CTE, more resources to ensure all students are successful, and governance and accountability. And again, the blueprint's overarching intent is to provide a world-class education for every student in Maryland. The AIB, or Accountability Board, is the new entity that was created as a result of the blueprint. They held several summer workshops on the early care and education. There's a draft blueprint comprehensive report criteria was shared by the AIB on October 13th. There will be public hearings on November 10th. The final criteria for reporting will be distributed to LEAs by December 1st, and a comprehensive blueprint implementation plan will be due by March 2023. I'd like to also add that the AIB has just released a comprehensive implementation draft on October 26th. No reporting template has been shared at this time, and the AIB is working in conjunction with MSDE, the Maryland State Department of Education, to finalize the reporting template that will be used for all jurisdictions across the state. Here's just a snapshot of our current enrollment, and I'd like to point out that under the special education column, there's an update on those numbers from what you might find in your packet. So those have been updated, but here's a snapshot of our current enrollment for pre-K for ages 3 and 4. I'll talk a little bit about the blueprint and pre-K expansion. For school year 22-23, MCPS has added 320 full-day seats, increasing access by 24%. We've added two-way immersion at Kemp Mill Elementary School, and also braided funds to create 2 mixed-income classrooms at McDonald Knowles ECC and Montgomery Knowles Elementary School, including Head Start and Tier 1 eligibility. And I would just like to add that one of the goals of the blueprint really is to be able to eventually, as time rolls on, that we'll have a mix of children in the same pre-K who have varying levels of socioeconomic status from their homes. So it won't be just a program that is focused on students who have households with lower income, but we'll really have a mix of kids. It'll be a mixed program. The plans for the 23 and 24 expansion during that school year include converting additional half-day seats to full-day seats in East County, Silver Spring, Gaithersburg, Germantown, and Olney. Also creating full-day inclusive classes in newly renovated elementary school buildings at Stonegate and Woodland. MCPS is committed to inclusive practices. We are working together with community partners to increase inclusive opportunities for preschoolers in and out of the system with our partnerships. We're supporting community-based providers through direct services to students with IEPs. There are currently 43 inclusive pre-K classrooms in MCPS. And we have expansion plans for FY24 that will include expansion of inclusive classrooms and more half-day preschool special education classes being converted to full-day programs. The goal of the blueprint is to eventually have full-day programs for our students.
Ms. Packey?
Yes.
Councilmember Navarro has a question.
Yes.
Yeah, just a quick question. I think it's so great regarding the two-way immersion expansion in
Yes.
Kent Mill Elementary School. It's at 40 seats. Are there any plans to increase that type of approach of the two-way immersion in other schools? I've been pushing for dual language programs as a general rule, given the fact that we have such a high percentage of ESOL students. I think it's like 70% of ESOL students are U.S. born, which obviously speaks to the fact that we need to do something in the pre-K space for language development. And so I think that's one point of intervention that is just ripe for, to see amazing results. And so I'm just curious, given that Kent Mill is I think an informal dual language program, but are there any plans to do more?
I'm going to defer to Nichelle Owens, but I also will say that as we look at this larger expansion, there are a variety of factors that we have to take into consideration in terms of looking at location, space, transportation, all of those factors. But I believe it is a goal for the future, but I will defer to Ms. Owens.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bakke, and thank you, Councilwoman Navarro. We heard you all last year when you asked about dual language expansion, and we certainly did that at Kent Mill. Our focus has been to look in areas where we have two-way immersion schools and see if there is expansion. Kent Mill provided that opportunity. We mentioned last year that we have a pre-K dual language or two-way immersion at Washington Grove Elementary School as well. So we are looking for those opportunities where the school has a program, and as Ms. Bakke said, where there is space in the program.
Yeah, thank you. So, I am aware of that. I just want to, obviously, especially for my colleagues coming back, just going to keep an eye on this. This is something that was proposed a number of years ago, precisely because of the fact that it would be an amazing intervention strategy to avoid having so many students stay in ESOL and being tracked into ESOL for so long. So, focusing on expanding dual language programs and then taking advantage of that opportunity to expand the pre-K space, I think is squarely positioned to make a big difference, and it's part of the goals that we have established. So I'm a little bit disappointed that we haven't made more progress, because I think the initial proposal when Dr. Smith was here was a lot more ambitious. But I know that there were logistical issues that needed to be addressed, and I just want to kind of point that and hope that there can be a stronger effort, because as the blueprint starts to be implemented and as early care and education is a part of that, that would be an awesome combination then to assist again in reducing those numbers of U.S. born students having to be tracked into ESOL just because they're not in quality early care and education spaces. So it's a way for us to solve that issue.
I just want to thank you for the history. We certainly will look into that.
Yeah, no, history is important. Recent history is even more important.
Thank you. We will take that as your strongest recommendation and take that under advisement as we continue to plan and move forward and prioritize.
And I'll just close by saying that the flip side of that equation is that parents who want their children to be bilingual really want this, right? So it's not just about, children that might have to go into ESOL. It's also about, and we see it that, Rock Creek Forest, Rolling Terrace, right? We see how parents really want their children to be bilingual. So it works on both sides, both children that are of a certain socioeconomic status and children who are another. I mean, if you're talking about mixed income, this is a win-win. It will be absolutely supported.
Yeah, thank you, Councilwoman Navarro. And it just reminds me, as I had my interview today with Radio America in Spanish, and it's one of those. No, but it's incredibly important. I mean, it really is, and it never goes away. And it's just interesting having my experience start in basically second grade of learning another language and learning Spanish, and then growing up in a space, and I'm actually trilingual because I also am fluent in sign language. And so it really is one where, for me, it's been dynamic, working for Gallaudet University for a number of years. But it really is something that I think that we have to make sure we're committed to, and selling in the space of what it is, of how our kids will benefit, all of our kids. When I think about my daughter, who's in school, in high school right now, who had an interest in culinary and is going in that direction, and so my wife said, well, you need to learn French. And so she took French. And it really does help in that dynamic of opening up multiple opportunities for you. And so I think that that's something, regardless of what it is that you want to do, to where that dual language is an absolute, bless you, an absolute benefit. And so making sure that we're doubling down on those efforts, I think, is going to be incredibly important with the immersion. So anyway, but thank you. Thank you for the great work that we're doing. Progress is great. We always just like to push for more.
Absolutely.
Ms. Baki, back to you.
There's been an expansion of inclusive practices, and we're continuing to expand our general and special education teachers and paraeducators participating in more professional learning. We're using the pyramid model for social and emotional learning as a framework. We're working on best practices for co-teaching models, implementing math and literacy curriculum with modifications to meet the needs of all students, and then job-embedded coaching to provide support for all staff and best practices. There continues to be expanded collaboration with our partners. MCPS has a new pre-K expansion partnership teacher role that has been working to facilitate ongoing collaboration with our community partners. As we continue to increase the community-based programs in Montgomery County, there's a need for us to really collaborate, to encourage, to recruit more providers, and also provide them with some additional support. So this role serves as a resource and a coach for the community partners. They conduct monthly meetings with MCPS and the community partners. They'll provide curriculum support and share professional learning opportunities. They'll coach and provide resources for teaching and learning with an emphasis on special education and multilingual learners. They'll provide support for the class assessment, which will be required as a part of the Excel system, Excel's rating system, which is a quality rating assurance program. And MCPS is working with HHS Early Childhood Services and Montgomery College to explore pathways for teaching assistants to earn a CDA or associates. So within 3 years, all of our paraeducators and community-based teaching assistants who work with pre-K will need to earn a CDA or an associate's degree. So we're working collaboratively, working together to put together a support plan. MCPS also has some additional funds that have been available for the application process. So that collaboration is ongoing to help lift up our staff. MCPS continues to collaborate with HHS. We hosted an early childhood symposium on September 10th in collaboration with them. And we also collaborate with the following stakeholders: the Early Childhood Coordinating Council, some of the various groups we heard listed earlier, our Early Childhood Coordinating Entity, the Early Childhood Early Care and Education Initiative Steering Committee, the Finance Committee, Education and Workforce Committee. We serve on the Commission on Child Care, and also the Community Action Board. We work along with Head Start, as MCPS is the delegate. We'll take a look at the current blueprint mandate. So it says by this school year, FY23, we have to have 30% of blueprint state-funded slots in community-based programs. So this is specific to the blueprint funding. So right now we are at 52.5% in MCPS and 47.5% in the community. It's just for those blueprint funded slots, so we are meeting our requirement for the 30%. Within 2 years, we will need to get to 50%. So I'll stop for a moment and just say that there's a lot of capacity building. There's a lot of heavy lift that has to be required to bring our community providers up. I think that we're in a good place, but we need to continue to work to support and recruit more providers to join in and to give them the support that they need along with the county and the state to help them meet these blueprint requirements. The work of the blueprint is ongoing. We have many subcommittees and groups that are working. We're looking at our supply of providers. We're looking at parent choice in terms of the parents being able to choose what types of programs they want, whether school-based or community-based. We're trying to keep an eye on the impact of the blueprint on our infants and toddler slots and providers that want to seek infants and toddlers if there's our funding for 3- and 4-year-olds. So we're keeping an eye on that. We're working along and pushing with workforce development to help some of our child care providers and others to get degrees, to move from a bachelor's degree to P3 certification, or to move from a high school diploma onto an associate's degree. We're also trying to really advocate at the same time for the funding for the real cost of care. So we see the estimates and some of the numbers that we get, but then we talk with the providers about what these actual costs are. And we think about the school system, which offers some economies of scale in terms of the infrastructure that's built into an elementary school program. And then we think about the infrastructure and support that community providers are able to need. So we're continuing to advocate for that with MSDE, the State Department of Education, but also with the AIB. In terms of looking at what that per pupil funding amount is, and then looking at what it actually costs to operate these programs. And then the other thing that we're also keeping a close eye on is the capacity and looking at how many children we actually think would be eligible in the Tier 1 and Tier 2 space, which means the 300% of federal poverty level and then the 300 to 600% of federal poverty level. So earlier, HHS had commissioned Adele Robinson to complete a report that looked at the impact of the blueprint on Montgomery County and our current infrastructure. And so we find that we're trying to work hard to reconcile the numbers that we have, the estimates that we have, and the estimates that the state has for exactly how many children we have who have limited resources and are eligible. So we're keeping a close eye on that, and we're trying to share the numbers we have. I think HHS's numbers and MCPS's numbers are very close in terms of our estimates on how many children will be eligible. So we're continuing to work on that and continuing to work on increasing the number of community-based programs. We have about 9 counties statewide who are not going to be able to meet the 30% requirement for this year. They're requesting waivers. There are a few counties that have no community partners who are able to meet the eligibility for the blueprint. So I think we're in a good place, but we have to continue to be diligent to recruit and support more community providers to participate. And I think with that support, they can participate and also be successful. For further information and to provide feedback, here's some listing of the websites that you can provide information or feedback to MCPS, to the AIB, to MSDE. And as we go forward with the draft comprehensive plan that has been listed on their website, folks can also provide some feedback on that as well. I encourage all of those who are viewing this hearing, especially our community provider community, to please provide some feedback. We'll be advocating as well. Thank you. It's just been a pleasure to work on these issues over a number of years and to work with the council to move this agenda and issue forward. And it's also been sort of a personal issue for me as well with early childhood over a number of years. So I thank you so much for all of your support.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Bakke. And let me just say that, you know, when it comes to a lot of the pieces that you mentioned that need to fall into place, we were having this discussion as an Education and Culture Committee around the workforce development piece of this, right? And so I really want to thank and shout out Montgomery College that has certainly stepped up when it's come to making sure that we can create those pathways. But there are some things that need to happen at the state level in terms of making sure, and this is something that Councilmember Navarro has been adamant about. So many people who come to this country from other countries, as we have such a large immigrant population, and ensuring the seamless transfer of those credentials to being credentialed here in the state to be able to serve is really something that I think we need to fix. For so long, across different spectrums of workforce, we have been lagging in terms of, especially when it comes to healthcare, the ability to be able to help to serve our communities. And I know, I see Dr. Kroll nodding his head. He knows we've had those conversations in Health and Human Services about that, and about doctors and nurses and the like. And so it really is one where it becomes a federal issue as well. And so working with our federal partners to make sure that they can help us to help states to streamline this, to ensure that we have folks who are able to step into these roles and empowering them to do such. I do just want to mention that some of the hope around what happened with the infrastructure plan that the Biden administration put forward was about the child tax credit, which was specifically designed to help to ensure that you could have these new startups, because it would make a difference in terms of people saying that the numbers work, because they didn't work before under the current reimbursement models. And so it is something where it's all connected, and we have to keep our eye on all these different bouncing balls, as you alluded to. But it really does require that all hands on deck to make sure that those kinds of things happen. So as we do see some increases and some support coming our way, we know that there's still more that needs to be done in terms of investment. You know, as I said before in our previous conversation, it all ties together. If folks care about all these other issues that they're saying are gripping America right now, you can do it by investing in early childhood education. It's not that hard. Let me turn to Dr. Kroll.
So I'm going to immediately shift this over in the interest of time to Bibi Otero, who's on with us from Hybrid to walk us through the Early Child Care Education Initiative update, and will be available to answer any questions you might have.
All right. I think I have a few slides. Want to make sure those are going up. Thank you very much for having me. As we get the slides up, I want to echo a lot of what's been said today about the systems building around early care and education. And I think our intent 4 years ago, when we put together with the council, with Montgomery College, with MCPS, and certainly the executive, this early childhood initiative was to really look at the system and to ensure that we were looking at all aspects of the system as we move towards not just childcare, but all of the impacts on our young children. And we put together a steering committee, as you well know. Are the slides coming up, or just not sure who's managing this?
This is we have a bit of a glitch. We're working on getting you the slides.
Okay. So I'm going to just go ahead and start and hopefully the slides.
Colleagues, just so you're aware, we have them in our packet. So for colleagues who can follow along, we have it in our packet as well. So go ahead, Ms. Otero.
I have very few slides, and it's a very high-level overview. We have provided you with an overview of the work that, and some of the outcomes of the work that the Early Childhood Initiative has done, Early Care and Education Initiative has done over the last 4 years. As you will know, we started this 4 years ago, and we have a lot of successes and a lot of work that we move forward. So I'm not going to repeat a lot of that, but we'll want to remind you that we started this with a focus on sustainability, and that is the sustainability of early care and education, the field as it is, our providers, and our ability for our providers to be able to continue providing the services to families in the county. as well as to be able to sustain the work as it pertains to families and children. The second piece of this, as you know, was access and affordability. It was back, I'm on slide 2. Access and affordability were really key to the work in terms of making sure that we were providing parents with the resources necessary for those parents for whom early care and education is not affordable, and for whom, but for our support, they would not be able to put their children in quality care. And so both creating additional spaces, seats for children, as well as working on the affordability issue. And I'll share how we continue to work in each of those. The other one was alignment. That was all you've heard over and over today, the importance of aligning what the community wanted and needed, what providers need in order to be able to do their work, what HHS is doing within the early childhood services, and certainly what now we have in front of us with the blueprint. And so all of the work 4 years ago, the foresight of really working on creating the partnerships and the alignment for services and making sure that children who transition, for example, out of early Head Start can get into Head Start or pre-K classrooms, the linkages for families who are in home visiting and then want to get into childcare. The kinds of alignment, the alignment into public education, the alignment for, we just heard about the workforce and the need for, to ensure that we have a pathway. Those are all alignment issues. We have offerings in trainings and in CDA, but we also have the AA and the BA, and all of those pieces that require alignment around the system. And finally, expansion, which really goes back to the issue of both sustainability and access, is that we know that we don't have sufficient seats for all of the children who need quality early care and education in our county. And with now the requirements of the blueprint, that is even a more urgent need for us to really pay attention to expansion issues. So just wanted to remind you that the Early Childhood Initiative, Early Care and Education Initiative, was really about a systems building approach to early care and education and putting the building blocks in place to make sure that those systems are working on behalf of our children. So just real quickly, some of the things that are in the midst and in the process. We've talked before about the supply and demand study, now even more urgent because the pandemic has had a huge impact on what is available and what programs remain open, what closed, etc. And then add the blueprint, which requires us to maintain a certain number of seats for pre-K in the community-based settings as well as the public schools. We need to understand what our supply is right now and then what the demand is. We're in a region that is extremely mobile. We don't know exactly where all of our parents receive their care. We don't know what the preferences of our families are post-pandemic in terms of hours of operation, location of childcare, location of preschool programs. So all of this is a supply and demand study. It's been released, we're waiting for, and there are a number of people across the country and organizations across the country who have become experts at this. So we're looking at folks who have an economics background, who can look at this from a perspective, not just sort of transactional piece, but really deeply look at the needs of our community and what now is there post-pandemic especially. The second piece that's in procurement, and I think Janina alluded to this, and that is the cost of quality care study. We have one that was done several years ago. It really needs major updating. It really needs to be a new cost of care study. We hope that the state will adopt cost of care. I think I've shared with you in the past that at the federal level, what most states have done with their child care funds for subsidy has been a market rate, and have used market rate, which was accepted by the federal government. That does not really give us a true cost. And so slowly, states are beginning to adopt cost of care. The District of Columbia adopted it several years ago. New Mexico just adopted. Virginia is just in the throes of adopting cost of care. And that will have a very significant change of what funding really needs to look like and what it actually costs for a family to access quality care for their babies and for their preschoolers. And so that cost of care study is another piece of data. I think early on somebody talked about data and the need for us to have really current and good data to make the decisions we need to make. And I think Janine talked about the study that Adele Robinson did for us, which was also to look at who are the children, how many of the children are out there. And so this cost of care and supply and demand should give us that information. The next piece that's been released already is the shared services process. I know some of you know about this. This is something that is not unique to early care and education, but as we look at the business of providing care, we need to look at economies of scale, and we look and shared services is one of those areas that has been there's been a lot of work that has done across the country. We've done a little bit here in the county, especially during the pandemic around PPE and a number of other pieces, but we really want to look at what it would really take for the county to have a robust shared services piece that will support, in particular, small centers and family child care to have just to be in a better financial standing in terms of their services. The last two are, you've heard us talk a little bit about this idea of building this, and it's in our budget, a building fund. And this goes to the issue of supply and access. And so we have put out an RFP for a consultant who will work with us to develop the RFP and the understanding of what it's like, what we need to do to work with the CDFI, Community Development Investment Fund, that would manage a facilities fund. There are several of these around the country. I've personally worked with two funds in both on the philanthropic side as well as government to help expansion of care, early care and education. Most of you've heard the need for us to have more pre-K classrooms. We want to make sure that we have the funds for folks to be able to expand rather than have to make a choice between pre-K and infants and toddlers. And so if you are limited in space and you want to provide a pre-K classroom, we don't want you to close your infant classroom to do that. And so for that, we need to make sure that we have the funds for expansion. So these are some of the activities of the major projects. So the RFPs are, as you know, funded, and those are in progress. Internally, as a steering committee and as the initiative, we work, as you heard from Janine, we've served as the Blueprint Advisory Committee and have worked closely with Janine, with the public schools, with MCPS around the continuing commitment with supporting our pre-K community-based, but as well as helping gather as many members of the community to have input around the work that Janine needs to or is putting together, so that we have a plan for the county, and that we have a plan that engages as many of our community members as possible. I talked a little bit about community-based Head Start. We know that there are gaps. Even though it's not a large number of children, there are gaps for those children coming from very low-income families who are in early Head Start and age out before they are able to get into Head Start programs. So we have continued to do that work. The child care subsidy pilot, again, looking at the issues of affordability, sustainability. We have the WPA, which sort of supports and supplements the scholarship, the child care scholarships that the state does we want to look at ways to incentivize our providers to take more low-income children who are subsidy eligible as well as WPA eligible. We don't have, I think we could do a much better job at making sure that those children have slots if we are able to provide some assurances to providers that that we will pay for a certain number of seats. So that's what this pilot is. The idea is to get about 200 seats and to do that in key zip code areas where we know that we have the largest need for subsidized childcare. And then HHS has been working on this community portal that will allow for families to seamlessly apply for childcare, as well as for providers to be able to provide information through a portal for our providers. So that's an area that I think is key. Additional projects, they're listed there: the the Lavina project at Shepherd Park, the language development piece. Basics, we've been working with the Collaboration Council around funding that. The early screening project, I think that was mentioned a little bit earlier, the importance of that. Child care support and sustainability has been a really core piece, and we've been part of the national model around this, which is to provide business support and training and permitting fees and all of that to providers, especially family child care providers, the small providers who need some of these sort of back office supports that eventually could be done in a shared services model. But we're not going to wait for that. We've been working on this, especially because of the impacts of the pandemic. We do have an outreach and marketing campaign being developed for WPA. Again, we want a larger uptake of WPA from families, and we want to make sure that we are letting the community know that WPA exists and that they have access to that. And certainly, as it was mentioned before, we continue to do the scholarships in Montgomery College for the AA. So as we move forward, we have just completed our 4-year action plan, our first 4-year action plan, as was stated earlier, and I think have really accomplished a great deal. The action plan for the next 4 years is in motion. We've had the steering committee retreats on this. We've already done some prioritizing. Committees have pulled together all of their membership and have done recommendations, and now we're in the process of presenting this at community forums and surveys so that we have a 24-27 action plan that builds on the work we've done over the last 4 years. So I just want to acknowledge all of the HHS staff, our community partners, as well as members of the steering committee across all of the government agencies and departments, because that's really what this initiative was about, aligning across government agencies as well as with community partners. HHS, Early Childhood Services, have done an amazing job around that work, in particular with providers, and certainly during the pandemic. So I'm very encouraged by this, and in particular by our ability to garnish a lot more data that's really needed for some of the decisions moving forward. I hope I have covered everything. If not, I'm open for questions.
Excellent. So I've got a question from Council President Albornoz.
Thank you, Ms. Ortero. Great presentation, and thank you to our colleagues and partners at MCPS, and associate myself with all the comments of previous colleagues and appreciate the responses to their questions. So the challenge of recruitment and retention of staff has been acute, sort of at all levels. And so just wanted to, and some of this you touched on, Ms. Ortero, during your presentation, but if we can just expand a little bit on what the recruitment and retention strategies are to make sure that we have the staff and the trained staff available to carry out their strategic plan and the blueprint.
So, excellent question, because we are not the only ones who are seeing this as a major issue. The workforce really has become the top early childhood issue in the country at this moment. Workforce compensation, compensation parity, benefits, and certainly the education piece of this in terms of creating a strategy by which we can get more and more jurisdictions who have made a BA a requirement for their teachers are faced with now how do we get that done? Mostly through our community colleges, of course, and through our four-year universities. We have expanded. I believe we will be funding some of the scholarships at the four-year level. We're in conversations right now with four-year universities to do that. We are facing some real challenges, in part because some of our neighbors are now doing significant increases in child care compensation. And so we have not only the competing piece around bachelor's degrees and furthering your degrees as a sort of overall requirement for quality, but we now have competitions, significant competitions in terms of pay and compensation. So our four-year plan is really looking forward to see what are some of the solutions that we can come up with in terms of trying to increase compensation. The state has done some what I would call light touches towards this through some subsidies, some retention subsidies, as well as or bonuses they're calling them, as well as for those who sign up to take a job, and there's some signing in bonuses, but those are not salary increases to actually have an impact on the salary of a permanent employee. And I think that's where our work has to be next. We can't ask folks to get a bachelor's degree and not be able to pay commensurate with a bachelor's degree in public education, for example, a bachelor's degree in early childhood. We've had, as Janine mentioned, we have worked really closely with the SBS staff to think about all of that and to think about how we don't have one system taking from the other. So whether it is people getting their degrees in early childhood through their community-based setting and then moving to the public school system because the salaries are certainly higher. So it's complicated, and at the end of the day, the answer is really resources, and significant resources, to stabilize the workforce. I don't know if that answers your question fully, but
no, you did a great job. I know there's no easy solution to this, and as you said, this is a national crisis, and we do need to be bold and creative in both from a budgetary perspective, making sure that we are competitive with other jurisdictions across the region. But if there are other tools that we have at our disposal, we should be looking at all avenues, as I know we are. And this isn't all hands on deck. So I think a work group focused on this with representation from the council in some way, I think would make sense, because we're all sort of feeling this pinch, and it has massive implications in so many different ways. So it needs to be the priority that it has been. But I appreciate that response.
Well, we'll give you some data. The work group that's working on it right now is the Finance Committee of the Early Childhood Initiative. And so we will have some better numbers as we look at comparing salary scales and looking at the breadth of our workforce in early care and education right now. And so we will have the beginnings of some of that data I think very shortly, and when we look at demand and supply, we'll have a good sense of what the current supply of seats are, so that we know what the need for staffing will be moving forward.
I appreciate that. And then sort of last side of this is retention, and it's an exhausting job. It's been overwhelming, and salary and compensation is clearly very important, but I think to the degree to which we can better support our current professionals who are in this role, they're often the best recruiters for others. And I think part of that, and I'm looking at Ms. Treadvance and Dr. Kroll, the synergy between HHS and MCPS has always been important, clearly. But the challenges that our teachers are seeing in the classroom at all levels is in many ways overwhelming. And so the seamless transition of being able to make referrals for different social service needs of students that are in the classroom ultimately does help the educators to be able to do their jobs effectively. And I think that all of these things have to happen at the same time, and we're doing our best, I know. But I think to be even more intentional, even things such as data sharing, which I know has been a challenge in the past among the respective agencies, are issues that we have to work through, clearly, with everything that we're seeing right now. But we're in this for the long haul, so thank you all very much for those updates. I yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Otero, for the presentation. I did just want to say one thing that I think is incredibly important for us moving forward, and I know that it was not just an intentional omission, but we've got to make sure that as we're doing all of our presentations that we ensure that there's a coordinated effort. I noticed that in the MCPS presentation that they specifically listed the CAO, but wasn't seen in the HHS county executive presentation. And so just want to make sure that we delineate those in terms of, saying that, yes, we are partners in this. We want all of our stakeholders to see that we are speaking with one voice and we are all on the same page, that we're not, so I see that when MCPS highlighted collaboration with partners, that they specifically mentioned the Early Childhood Coordinating Entity Children's Opportunity Alliance by name. I did not see that in the presentation by the county executive, and those kinds of things matter, just in terms of what people see, right, in terms of them understanding that we are all connected. And that's the reason why when we did the legislation, we wanted to make sure that we're all listed together. So again, like I said, no need to respond. It's just something to remember as we're doing our presentations in terms of how we move forward. Let me just say this, that I think that, when I look at the opportunity that's there before us, when it comes to Blueprint, and again, like I said, I spent 3 years of this. So this is kind of my baby. And so as I'm stepping away, part of me feels nervous because while I think that we have the ability to really commit to making these things happen, at the same time, I feel as though there's got to be that driving force to ensure that these things happen. I know because Dr. Crowell will tell you, Joanne Barnes will tell you, Sharon will tell you, everyone who was involved in this for the years in which we were working with this, Councilmember Navarro, Councilmember Albornoz knows, we had to push to make this happen. So if we had to push to make it happen, we've got to push to make it happen, right? And so from that standpoint, again, I know that the council president was intimately involved in a lot of this, and so certainly has that background knowledge. But it is important for us to ensure that we're not just saying the right things, but we're actually committed to doing it. This is hard work in terms of really stepping aside from having our silos of where it is that we want to be and saying that we're doing great jobs, and just sticking with that and acknowledging that there's so much more that needs to be done. Because for everyone that's in this room, regardless of whether you're private sector, nonprofit, or government, yeah, you did a great job with people you reached, but there's so many who aren't reached today, who don't have access. So no one can hold up their hand and say, oh, I'm doing great, I'm doing excellent, because there are people who are underserved. It goes for us too, right? We all bear responsibility in that. And so from that standpoint, we've got to do better. And we've got to do better because at the end of the day, it's our community, our kids that are depending on us to do so. And so, from that standpoint, I think we have the potential to do some great things. The key is, are we going to do it? Or are we going to revert back to our old ways in terms of just saying, well, now that we have this coordinating entity on paper, that's that, and we've done enough to check a box and not actually do the work. That's our charge. That's the charge that the Kerwin Commission put before everybody across this state, not just Montgomery County. Not preaching to you guys. I'm just telling you guys what we came up with. There are a number of us who spent waking hours trying to commit to figure out a better way to make an education system that would work for everyone. I didn't get paid for this as a consultant. I did this because I cared about it, because I wanted to see our system get better, right? And that's what I believe, and what many people, including our state legislature, believed was the best way for us to move forward to make that happen. So let's not disappoint them. Let's not disappoint our kids. Let's not disappoint our community that's depending on us to make sure that we make a better system for them. So with that, turn to my colleagues for any closing comments. If not, I really want to say thank you. This is tough. This is not easy. But I know and I'm confident that if we double down and commit ourselves, we're going to make some amazing strides in terms of really meeting what we want, which is an education system that is world-class, world-renowned, and speaks to the needs of each and every one of our students, not just some. That's what we have before us. And so if we truly come at this with that in mind, I think that we'll end up being successful. And a lot of us can look back and say we were a part of that. That's the big deal. So with that, I think we are adjourned. Thank you so much, guys. Take care and go forth.
June 5th, 2022, from River Road to West Bard Avenue until October of 2023.
Watch for a new traffic signal in full color operation at Shady Grove Road and Planning Meeting House Road.
Watch for a new traffic pattern on Arlington Road from Little Falls Parkway to Hallandale Road.
We will continue to monitor transportation